Hello guys, gals, and NBs. Today, we are making some flow fields like these ones in TOUCHDESIGNER. This is mainly a way to generate images. But they also grow and expand into their shapes in a very satisfying way. There are so many options with this technique. I will show you how to make some vector field that I think make interesting shapes. But you will also have a lot of room to play with your own ideas. Let your artistic insights shine as you play with the vectors and colors of this. I'm also uploading a few more examples with different vector fields on my Patreon, link in the description. But feel free to play around with this. So what is a flow field? It is essentially a 3D particle system that we add a ton of feedback to. First, I'm going to show you a basic setup, and then we will make some variations. Let's get started together. Let's start by dropping down a geometry comp. Step inside it. And drop an add SOP. Add points. And a convert SOP to convert to particles per point. A null. Delete the torus. And turn on the display and render flag. Outside we drop a camera. And a point sprite material. Drag the material to the geo, and add a render top. Set your render resolution, but make sure you are using a 32-bit float as your pixel format. Connect it to a transform to set your background. And a null. Let's put this in the background. Okay. Let's use a constant chop and name the channel count. And let's use 1024 today, for fun. And let's create a grid map with 2 ramps. Drag and drop the resolution. 32-bit float. Copy and paste. And set it to vertical. Connect it to a reorder. Connect it to a null. Let's call it POS. And let's instance these. And I forgot to fix the reorder. Input 2 green. Blue 0. And drag this to the translate operator. There's our square. Let's center them with a math top. Mask the blue and alpha. And let's just subtract 0.5. Let's move the camera a little closer. Drop down a null. Let's call it init. For initial position. And another null that we call end. And a feedback top. Let's drop down a noise. Drag and drop the count. 32-bit float RABA. I like high period and a lot of harmonics. Make sure you set the offset to 0. Monochrome off. Connect the feedback to the second input of the noise. Connect a math. And let's multiply this by 1 divided by the count. So 1 divided by 1024 in this case. Let's add this to the feedback loop. Let's reset the noise with a keyboard and chop. Now, let's use the life component to return these home. Now, if you don't have this, you can go to my Patreon and download it there. Or you can go to this video and make it from scratch. I'll link to it in the description. Okay, if you've dropped it into this project, connect it to the init null. And let's step inside. Let's select the in, and multiply that with this threshold. Let's rename this out to life. Now, let's take this add and connect it to a reorder. And let's set the alpha to luminance. I'm also going to put a limit before that to clamp it between 0 and 1. Let's connect this to an out, and call it color. We will use this to fade the color of the particles over their lifetime later. Let's step outside, reset it. Take the life output and put it over the feedback loop. Grab the other output from the life component with a null. And let's select it down here. Connect it to a null, and let's call it COL. Under the second instancing tab, let's use this as our color operator. Set the red, green, blue, and alpha. Turn on blending in the material. I'm also going to set my background to white. A feedback in a separate track from the render. A level, and set the opacity really high, like 0.992 or something. Connect it to an over. Drag and drop it to the feedback. Make sure the render goes into the second input. And let's use the keyboard to reset it. And there we have it. Our first flow field. Let's connect our keyboard and chop to a count chop, and drag that to the seed of the noise so every time we reset, we get a new noise. So yeah, that's the basics. Let's add some strange vectors in this feedback loop. For example, let's have it expand from the center. We can connect this add to a math. Multiply it by 0.001 or something small. And then add that to the loop. But maybe we don't want our initial positions to be grid. Maybe we want it to be a circle. That's easy. Let's just drop down a circle SOP. Set the radius to 0.5. Connect it to a sprinkle SOP to add some points along the surface. How many points? Well, we want it to be our count squared. So let's drag the count and square that expression with two multiply signs. Connect it to a null and convert it to a chop. Let's hide these viewers. Let's take this chop and convert it to a top. Set it to R, G, B, and fit to square. Pixel format 32-bit float R, G, B, A. As you can see, this texture is now 1024 by 1024. And let's connect that to our initial positions. You can also use a sphere, or any SOP you want. But I do suggest keeping the size between -0.5 and 0.5. It's just easier that way. Let me connect the grid again. And let's add some more vectors. Let's add a two-dimensional curl noise in the red and green channel. Let's copy and paste this noise. Change the seed, and turn it into a simplex noise. And remove the harmonics. Let's remove this connection. Connect a slope. Set the 0 point to 0. And turn the strength down a little. Connect it to a point transform. Set it to vector. And let's rotate these boys 90 degrees. Let's remap this to current position. Drop a select dot and select the feedback top. Connect a remap to the point transform. And let's connect this UV to the second input of the remap. But the remap needs values centered around 0.5, and our current UV map is centered around 0. So let's trick it by using a math and adding 0.5. Make sure to mask the blue and alpha. In the remap, let's also extend with mirror. Let's add these to our feedback loop. Let's set the noise to monochrome and turn up the strength in the slope. That looks cool, but it's not what I expected. Let's figure out what's going on here. Oh, right. In the slope, we need to set the green to vertical luminance, and blue to 0. Now we have a curly flow field. And just play around with these and go nuts. Add different vectors and see what it does to it. Or try to look at it from different perspective. I never get sick of playing with these. But let's add some colors to it. Let's copy these 3 nodes. The select, math, and remap. And let's drop down a ramp. Drag and drop the count. And set your pixel format. You can color this however you like. just set the extend mode to hold. So yeah, have fun with the colors and vectors. I'm uploading a few different versions of this project for my Patreons. Like this one. This one. And this one. I appreciate you all. Have fun. And cheers.